Oh, no, never mind. Okay, in theory, the OnePlus 8 Pro's camera should be a massive improvement over past OnePlus phones. Its sensor is about 40% larger and it's got a more advanced image signal processor. But the question then becomes, is it enough to keep up with the absolute best phones out there?
Well, actually, yeah. Bear in mind with this comparison that while these are the 3 best phones each company offers, there is a price disparity, with Samsung being the most expensive. One of my first observations with this new OnePlus phone was just how much the company has improved video dynamic range on the 8 Pro. I didn't think I'd be saying this, but from everything I've seen, it is iPhone 11 Pro quality. Samsung, meanwhile, it's sometimes not so great, like here, where the details in the darker areas have all but disappeared. But it's sometimes good, like here, where it was able to light me up fairly well, even though the sun was directly behind me. But OnePlus is actually quite consistently good. Because it's a cheaper phone too, even if it turns out equivalent to these other 2 phones, I'd consider that a victory. So it's cool to see that at least in some aspects, it's better. The only thing I would say is that there's a hint of redness with OnePlus that shouldn't really be there. And Samsung is slightly on the warm side versus iPhone's cooler tones, but between those two I'd say it's personal preference. What is significant, you've probably noticed this already, is that the stabilization is uniformly fantastic in this comparison. All 3 phones have optical image stabilization plus software stabilization, and it shows. Even here, when I was trying to walk like a maniac, each of them have managed to smooth it down to something that looks almost rhythmic. This is all being filmed at 4K resolution, by the way. If we move to low-light video, OnePlus is actually brighter than the other 2. Low-light video has always been a weakness for Samsung, but it's cool to see that this OnePlus can also find more light in the sky than even Apple's best. My main complaint with video on this 8 Pro generally is focusing. Take a look at the iPhone for a second. It can easily and reliably switch focus back and forth between the flowers in front and the flowers behind, but both OnePlus and Samsung have a real tough time being able to do that. Focusing on faces is fine, but both of these 2 phones just fall apart on small, finicky subjects. You probably knew this. It's easier for a camera to take a good photo than it is to take a good video. So it's kind of unsurprising that all 3 of these have stellar photography. You'll notice pretty early on that the large sensor sizes on OnePlus and Samsung, they result in much more natural background blur when you're capturing close-up subjects. These are all not portrait mode shots, just normal photos. Also quite apparent is how both of these Android phones, they tend to apply more contrast to images. They often come out as more processed, more altered perhaps, but I would say it's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, let's crop into my face in this shot. You can see that both OnePlus and Samsung, they seem to have detected that my face is there, and it kind of adjusted it to look like how a face should look. Offense slightly taken, but I think most would agree that I look better in those photos, which is what most people want. And on the note of cropping into things, you might be wondering which camera captures more detail. A simple question. As always though, the answer has a little more to it. At face value, OnePlus's main camera is 48 megapixels, Samsung's is 108, and the iPhone's is 12. So if you take a max resolution shot on each and crop all the way in, it's Samsung, fairly closely followed by OnePlus, and then iPhone. The thing is though, most of the time you'll be on auto mode, and on auto mode each phone actually just takes 12 megapixel shots. Samsung still has an edge in detail though, thanks to one of its pixels being made up of effectively 9 smaller subpixels. The OnePlus 8 Pro has a couple of other interesting photo features. A macro mode, which is pretty much the best macro mode I've ever seen on a phone. It lets you get many times closer to objects and still keep them in focus. I've been working on a painting over the last week, and with this mode I could get right up next to it and get pictures of the finer details. The other addition to OnePlus is a color filter mode. The phone's got a separate camera dedicated to just taking these quite strange inverted looking shots. I'd say in a best case situation, they're curious, but in any indoor environment, the quality just falls apart. All 3 phones have ultra-wide cameras, and actually OnePlus's ultra-wide sensor is like twice the size of the sensors on the other 2 phones' ultra-wides. Fun fact, the ultra-wide camera on the OnePlus 8 Pro uses the same sensor as the main camera of the normal OnePlus 8. I really can't tell much of a quality difference though, and more obvious is the fact that Sammy and Apple just have a much wider field of view. And zoom. It seems to be a bit of a trend this year to stick a massive zoom camera on your phone, something Samsung has taken very much to heart. Credit where due though, at 10 times magnification, it is noticeably ahead of the other 2. And if you go further, if you go to 30, it's in a different league altogether, with OnePlus in second. It's a pretty similar situation for video too. The only thing to bear in mind is that video quality tends to deteriorate faster as you zoom in than photo quality, because the phone can't apply all of those image processing algorithms in real time. And slow-mo. All three can record slow motion at 240 frames per second. Actually, this clip here is another example of Samsung's sometimes finicky focusing. Let's try a new one. Okay, so yeah, 240 frame per second slow-mo. And you know what? I like OnePlus. Each phone is obviously taking a quality hit to record this many frames, but it feels like with OnePlus you're losing the least. And on OnePlus and Samsung, you can dial it up more. The former can record continuous slow-mo at 480 frames per second, while Samsung can do short bursts of 960. This is a really cool feature, but it just would have been cool to see some sort of quality improvement, since they introduced this years ago. What about as the light starts to dip? Well, shooting in the dark is always something I get quite excited about. This is my favorite section, because night mode is a real test of how powerful a company's camera software is. As for how the OnePlus fares, I'd say it trades blows. Sometimes it's behind, sometimes it's ahead. As with a lot of its daytime shots, it does still have that slight red tinge where it probably shouldn't, and I kind of wish that OnePlus spent more time capturing at night. As things stand, it literally takes its night mode photo in 1 second, while the Samsung and iPhone they take their time with 3 to 4 second captures, and that basically means that with the OnePlus it's not giving enough time to let more light in. You do get the option though, with each of these three phones, to stick them on a tripod and capture for 30 seconds flat. And to give you an idea of how much difference that can make, it turned these shots into these shots. Quite a nice little jump there. I do think though that OnePlus takes the best flash photos if you're less of a night mode type of person. It has really good range and fill, and the software takes an extra second after you take a flash photo to kind of piece things together. It's worth the wait. iPhone still takes the best portraits. This title hasn't been contested in quite a long time. I'd say both of these Android phones, and a lot of Android phones, sometimes the blur doesn't look quite right, sometimes faces are a little soft, sometimes they're too dark, sometimes they're too light. I just feel like Apple has figured out the secret sauce for taking reliably good portrait mode photos. And so to wrap this comparison up, selfies. We're at a stage now where, in the right lighting, selfies can look as good as rear camera photos, but as the light dips, they diverge. Apple captures the light similar to how it was. OnePlus and Samsung, as with their rear cameras, they tend to brighten and sharpen faces. With harsh backlighting, I'd say OnePlus struggles, and in super low light, you just can't see anything on the iPhone. So, that leaves us with the big question. Which phone won? I'm going to leave a poll here so you guys can vote on your favorite phone, but what's becoming pretty evident to me is that these three are incredibly well matched. It's hardly a case that one phone is just bulldozing the other two, and more a case that I'm evenly handing out awards to each of these three phones depending on the category. So in terms of your buying decision, it's probably going to be more a case of buy the phone that you want the software from and the user experience from, and then you can rest easy knowing that you're also holding one of the most capable camera systems out there. If you enjoyed this video, do watch out for my detailed battery comparison coming tomorrow, and with that being said, my name is Aaron, this is Mr. Who's the Boss, and I'll catch you in the next one.